Hello, everyone. Jesse here. Welcome back. We have another awesome episode of our podcast player interview series. We have another awesome guest with us today. I'm very excited for this episode in particular. I've been excited for all, but this one in particular. Today with us, we have a PWCQ number 3 champion with Goat Control, a 3v3 champion with Warrior converting to Turbo, an Obelisk 44 champion with an Earth Aggro list. There is a top 10 of all time in the War League. Numerous tops, including Golem Sentry Turbos, Relinquished Burns, all the good stuff. We have our Masters of Oz team captain and my good friend, Jase, with us. Hey, Jase, how are you feeling, mate? It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm feeling great, especially after that warm welcome. Thank you.
Oh, man, I had to list the decks you did all that with because... you are notorious for cooking up these beautiful decks and then just actually winning with them. It's insane. What's news anyway, man? How have you been? What's Yugioh been like for you the last couple of months? And, give us a bit of a rundown of Yugioh and War League and all the good stuff that's been happening for you recently.
Well, we came off that, making the playoffs for the first time in War League last season. That was fantastic. It was that was our third season, and now going into season number 4 now. Yeah, that was great. And then we did the 3v3. You haven't mentioned that you were there as well.
Yes, that was a
that was actually the first night that I've got up for a while. I think because with most of these tournaments, they do start at like 1 a.m, 2 a.m. So outside of Academy League and War League, where you can set the time, down here in Australia, you do have to get up really early to play in those. So that was the first in a while that I've done. And then, we've just come off last week. Unfortunately, first week of the new season of War League, we did lose 3-2.
Yes,
but,
that was a sad time. But last season, I believe we lost round 1, and then we came back and smoked everyone. So,
yeah.
Oh man, yeah. So the 3v3, like you touched on, the as I've been saying for ages, Jase, these Americans, these Europeans, they are very lucky that these tournaments are not Australian friendly times, because if we were entering them, there would be nothing left for them to be winning. But yeah,
every single tournament.
For the watchers, yes, we had the 3v3 recently. Me, Jason Dullinghai were on a team. And that was a 1 a.m. start for Jason and myself. It was a really good night. Jace, how was the night? How'd you prepare for getting up at 1 a.m? What deck did you take? What led to you taking the deck? Just give us a bit of a run through of like the lead into the 3v3, because that was a great time, and obviously we had a very good run.
Well, it was good mate messaged me late at night and said, "Hey, how do you feel about doing a 3v3? That was you."
Yeah, it was good as.
And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's we got to get a third person and let's just go. So we asked in the team, like, I think we had an idea to ask Dullinghai first, and he was in. How do you prepare for it? Well, how do we prepare for it? I mean, we thought your Warrior Smoke could be a really good list. So I was inspired by the success you've had, running that on ladder, and the theory is just so solid with what the deck's doing. Like you have an edge game 1, and then you try and keep your edge in game 2, and at worst it's still 50-50. Like if you're smoking in a CT and your opponent knows what you're doing, you're not actually losing your advantage. It's still a very fair matchup. Because the list does look similar to a normal Chaos Turbo list with Kaiku's after it converts. Yeah, getting up 1 a.m. I don't know if you got any sleep, but that's probably the most important thing, is just getting like a power nap in. Like I think minimum 3 hours is what I aim for. If I can get 4.5, that's brilliant. How did you prepare? Did you get any sleep?
Oh yeah, the 1 a.m. wake up was actually tough. So my plan for that day was like I usually have like coffee in the morning, and then I have some sort of caffeine like midday before I hit the gym or something. But on that day, I strategically didn't have my like midday afternoon caffeine hit, and as soon as I got the kids to sleep, just closed my eyes. So I think I actually got about 2.5 hours total, which was like not enough, but it was still better than nothing for 1 a.m. start. I remember it got to about
I remember you like like we were like laughing near the end of that tournament. Like we're just like we're so dead. You said you were shaking.
Yeah.
This was like at 5 a.m. and because we went undefeated. All the way to the end, and then like 5 a.m. you're shaking and you're like, I'm gonna have another one of those caffeine hits.
Yeah.
And complete opposite to my strategy, which was to try and hold off as long as possible before having that coffee, just to make it last, make it hit harder.
Yep. Oh man.
Man, we gave Dueling High a fright too with that plan to sleep in.
Oh, that's right.
So, like, it starts at 1 a.m., but because I'm trying to get as much sleep as possible, I set my alarm, like, we do all the registering and entering first, and then I set my alarm at, like, 1:45, like, just before it starts, and at 12 a.m., Dueling High is up, he's an hour before tournament, he's messaging us, he's like, where is everyone? And we didn't know this, like, you and I didn't know this, but he had entered a 3v3 before, and his teammates had slept in, and he was by himself with another person. Like they didn't have the third person, and they ended up just like dropping out. I had no idea he had actually experienced that, so I could see why he was frightened it was gonna happen again. Like, 1:45, there's no response from me at all. Like 15 minutes before the tournament, he's like, where is everyone?
Yeah, he was about to put in the chat, yo, I need 2 more opponents, and then we're like, yo, we're here. We're just getting our sleep maximum.
Yeah, he's gonna he's just like quickly gonna form a team. But yeah, like that was a fun start. But it was great though, waking up at that time and just not being alone is good. You got to suffer just as much,
Exactly.
which makes it a lot better.
Well, that's the thing when you wake up.
Not suffering alone.
Because there's not many tournaments we get to really play in unless we want to, because you lose your next day if you get up at that time essentially, because you got to sleep and you'll be tired and all that sort of stuff. And there's not that many tournaments that we can play in, and even a lot of the ones I've joined up, it's like you just play round 1, and I've had it in so many times where I've just been playing in like a PWCQ in the past or something, and I do like 1 round and I'm like, I'm just going to go to fucking bed. I just generally just do not want to do this. So getting up at 1 a.m. With you and Dueling High was, good fun. It just made the whole thing funner, which was really good. And it was just a good time. But we've secured our Worlds invites nice and early now, Jase. Do you have any plans on going and taking a second one?
Yes, yeah. I think I should. I don't know yet whether it will be Academy League or just one of the patrons or championship tournaments late at night. But yeah, I'll be playing in more before Worlds.
Very nice, because there's still a few months out. I think Worlds is October or something.
Yeah,
so still got some time.
October.
Yeah.
So still a bit of time. Just need to work out like how many I want to play in, how many late night starts, or whatever, just go through Academy League.
Yeah,
you're having a good run in Academy League right now, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, we're in Obelisk 55 right now at the time of recording. I'm sitting 2-0 in the winner's side. So I'm two more flat wins away from second invite. So I'm going to do my best to take that. I won't talk about what I'm playing as of yet.
No, don't.
But yeah,
not yet.
It's another cooking list. So I'm very, very happy with it. But Jase, look, man, I thought it would be awesome to chat with you about deck building, because there's a fun fact about you that a lot of the people may not know, and you built the famous Blue-Blooded Oni OTK over in Australia. You literally invoked the ban list. You've won
the ban list Wrath, more like.
It's unreal. You've won with Goat Control. You've topped heaps of events with Turbo and some very cool Turbo builds. You've built single-handedly a Relinquished Exchange Stallburn deck and took that to a second place at PWCQ. You've won with Earth Aggro. You've put Golem Sentry in Turbo List, all sorts of cool stuff. I thought it'd be awesome to touch on the deck building with you. And I thought it would be cool to kick off with the Blueblooded Oni FTK. Jase built a OTK that had never been done before and built a ban list. I'll leave it to Jase because Jase will be able to talk about this better than me. But how did you find that, man? What was your process? What is your deck building philosophy? Because you have cooked up some things that have just outright performed, which not many people can do. So over to you, bro.
Thanks. It was even worse than a OTK. It was actually an FTK, a first turn kill deck. So you may not even have got your turn before it won. So that blue-blooded list, I still remember where I was when it all came together, because I was trying to do like loops with the card, the blue-blooded Oni card, and I was like this card can be looped, and surely there's a way I can turn these loops into something that can end the game. Like some interaction to like burn the opponent out or just do something with it. And I still remember where I was. I was at uni walking between lectures out in the sun, and I was just thinking about it, and then it just kind of clicked. And the first thing I did is just like quickly open up my notes and just write it down before I get to the next lecture, which, I don't even remember what that lecture was about. I would have been thinking too much about that FTK list. But that was early on in 2015, and one of the things that I wanted to do with this deck was keep it kind of like secret under wraps. So that it have as much advantage as possible, because there was certain side deck cards that could interact with it that weren't even being played. I think maybe DD Crow wasn't being played, and that was a card that people could play against it. So it being a dark horse, being unknown, was its biggest advantage. So I decided that the tournament I was going to play it in was going to be Nationals and Oceania, because I had won an invite to the Oceania Championship by winning a regional earlier that year. And so all the time before then was about 3 months. So it was like 3 months of, how do you test this deck but keep it secret? Well, reached out to my friend Stressful, and we just played against each other. Like, we would play the meta decks and then iterate, and he would have some thoughts on like how to side and what ratios to do as well. So we worked together on it. And the cool timing with Nationals was it was just before the next ban list. And back then, I don't know if it's changed now, the ban list kind of had set dates where you could expect them. So the advantage of that was, you could invest in cards and decks before a ban list and go, okay, this deck is completely broken, but I know I can play it for the next 3 months. And then before the next ban list, I'll just if I want to mitigate my risk, I'll sell it off. Or I'll just take the risk and hold on to the deck. Like, you had that choice. So the timing was really good. Unfortunately, it was exams on that same week that I kind of wish I had done some more preparation for. And the actual tournament itself was Saturday Nationals and then Sunday Oceania. It was like a really busy weekend. So I wasn't as prepared as I want to be for my exams, and kind of had to study on the Saturday, missing Nationals, but Stressful ended up taking the list to a top 32 out of 1,000 people, which just shows just how well it could do. And then I played at Oceania and had a great time. The thing that ended up ending my run was I missided a card, and then when I reached for my extra deck, it wasn't there. It was I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was a card that would just blow up the opponent's field, and it wasn't in my extra deck, so I decided it out. So it was a bit unfortunate.
Oh man! So how
But
did this list win? Like, what was the process for the FTK?
it was nasty. I think the title that was given to it was like had a FTK in 90 steps. So because it was such a long, because it was a loop essentially. So you would you would summon all your extra deck out, and then you would use a card Imperial to like to shuffle everything back in. So you never really ran out of resources. But every iteration of the loop, you would draw a number of cards. So let's say each loop you would draw one card, and you would also, I think every third loop, you would also discard a card from your opponent's hand. And then at the end of it, you have like your whole deck in your hand. So you have 20 cards in your hand. And the way the loop ended the game is once you drew your whole deck and you had that minimum number of cards, is you would summon Tempest Magician, who would burn for each card that you could discard and put a counter on it. And so you would just discard your hand and then burn your opponent for their full life points.
Oh, that is insane. So imagine being sitting across from that and you're just like, you've never seen it before. And then you just draw your first hand and then you're just dead. That's insane. Oh, I love it.
So to save time, because we didn't want our opponents, sitting there for this whole period, we did talk with the judges before the event. We explained to them that we had a loop, and the loop functioned that every loop it would draw a card, like it had a purpose, because loops were not legal unless they did something. Like you can't just loop with no purpose. Like if it didn't draw a card, it didn't burn, it didn't do anything. You're just wasting your opponent's time. Mm-hmm. So we spoke with the judges and the event organizers, and they kind of ruled that we were allowed to perform the loop, tell our opponent what the loop was doing, and then if they didn't want to interact with it or do anything, we were allowed to say we're going to perform this loop 10 times and draw 10 cards and discard 5 cards from your hand, which was great because that saved a lot of time, because there was no purpose to performing the same loop over and over if your opponent's not going to interact with it. So they allowed that. We still had to perform the loop perfectly, like once or twice, because your opponent might be like, oh, I might interact, do it again.
Yep.
Most of them though were happy to be like, okay, I'll allow you, they've ruled it, we perform it 10 times, just as like a shortcut, because it was a long loop. Like one loop was 90 steps.
Yep.
So imagine you do that over and over and over, which we did.
That's insane that you found
it's been so long that, yeah, it's like that's the thing as well, is I still remember like I got the loop to like 40 steps, and it was like something that was like not working, and that was the part that I thought of how to fix all that time ago. Just walking between lectures in the sun, it just clicked.
Oh man, that is so funny. And I think that that skill or talent or just brains and intelligence you have, to put something together like that, I have definitely seen it carry over into like your GOAT format decks. Your most recent one, well, one of your most recent ones being like your Earth Aggro list from the Obelisk. You took that to War League last season, and you had a very positive win rate with it. You obviously won Obelisk with it, and this was an Earth Aggro list that had no rats, final attack orders. You had Kaiku's 3 shoot, 3 dust tornadoes. There might have even been no Mirror Force. I can't remember, but yeah, how did you build that list? Because Earth Aggro gets a bit of shade, from the competitive community in terms of it not being, competitive viable over enough matches or whatever. You've gone and shown that that's not the case. You've taken it to War League. You're beating amazing players that were on control with it. You won an Obelisk. What was your process building this Earth Aggro list out?
Well, first off, I actually completely disagree with it not being in a good place or not as competitive. That's actually, like, the fact I thought it was in a really good place, which is why I spent some time on it and took the deck. So so just to explain like my thought process behind that in a second, I'll answer your first question, like how did I build it where did it come from? It was inspired by Swifty's list. Shifty. They got second place at the World Championship 23. With Earth Aggro, and they were one of the first. Like Earth Aggro was quite new at the time. I think it had only been around for like a year, or it had only been on the map for a year. And he was one of the first players to not play Giant Rat, where a lot of other lists were playing Giant Rat. And he actually opted to replace the rats. He did one Kaiiku, one Magician of Faith. So he's playing like what he thought were really strong monsters instead of that, and had a lot of success with it. So that's kind of where I started with my list. Was okay, I'm not going to play Rat, but I did have another idea I wanted to try, which was Final Attack Orders. It kind of ended up just fitting into the deck instead of like a second Smashing Ground, and it made a lot of sense. Like, okay, we're running Final Attack Orders, you can't run Magician of Faith, so two Kaiikus, and that card is just crazy. The interactions it does, it's like a Smashing Ground because it'll outspy, which is what the main purpose of Smashing Ground is, to clear the spies, put damage in. It's defensive cards, so if they Tsukuyomi your Kaiiku, you can Final Attack Order on the attack decoration. Your Kaiiku goes to attack position. It's the same thing if they summon like Sinister Serpent to kill a Goblin attack force in defense position. You can flip Final Attack Orders on that attack decoration, and they end up taking damage, and you defend your monster, which is just so evil. And it works into how the deck functions. Like, I see the deck as almost like a burn deck with monsters. Like you're trying to burn your opponent by with like big bodies that, the way a burn deck functions is you sacrifice your cards to burn your opponent. So you're sacrificing a Goblin attack force to do a ton of damage, because it goes to defense position so they can just kill it easily. But yeah, so that was a really cool card. My thoughts with it though was that it is better as a one-off, because you want to run your other good cards too, and you don't really want to draw multiple of these because it has to have a monster to do stuff. Like, you need a monster on your side of the field for it to do anything. So just that type of card is a good one-off. But yeah, the reason I took it is, like, the deck itself I thought was really well positioned against the two meta decks, Chaos Turbo and Warrior. Against Chaos Turbo, there's been multiple times where it just, it just eats them alive, like it kills them before they can do anything, especially game one when they don't have much defense. Even in War League, I've played Chaos Turbo against Earth Aggro, and the opponent just slaps their cards down, and I just don't have enough defense game one to defend it. The whole deck is just Dust Tornado the back row, Dustshoot their hand, send goblins in directly. And then against the other deck, Warrior, the thought process of Warrior is, who has the bigger monster, and Earth Aggro has all the bigger monsters. Like, Goblin beats all of their stuff, and then Assailant is another DD Warrior Lady, which is one of the best cards in a Warrior Mirror, because you send it in, and if they attack over it, they trade a monster. You got 4 of them in your list, so it's another advantage there. Gotcha. It's I think it's very well positioned against the meta, which is why I took it, and it ended up having a great run.
Yeah, and I think the way you built it too definitely helps with that. Like, I think the absence of the rats, like where you've got 2 Kaikus, a Mystic Swordsman, the Final Attack Orders, you've got to max both Dustshoots and Dust Tornadoes in the list that you're playing in one, the Obelisk 44 with. I think the way that you built it, did it really well, essentially. Because, like you said, it's got that really nice, it's built better to beat Turbo than the standard, like, Earth Aggro list you'd typically see, while still being able to beat Warrior. So, yeah, I think you built that really well. And I can still remember watching a War League match. I think it was versus Don't Copy, who's a very strong duelist, and he was on Chaos Control. And you took the Earth Aggro and caught him on Chaos Control. And, just like... Yeah,
and I actually... which is like the worst matchup you could possibly have.
Yeah, and just
win. Like, taking it to War League, I'm like, I just need a Chaos Turbo or a Warrior matchup, and I got this in the bag. And then I get Don't Copy on Control. Yeah, Copy is a good friend of mine. He's my ex captain, my ex Wally captain, and he I know on Control he's a very good player on anything really, as he's proven. But he's very good on Control, and I was like, oh, of course I get this. And that was just such a great match to actually play out. I almost 2-0'd him. We ended up going to another, to the third game. I believe we even drew a game. Like, it was quite a slog to get through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up getting him in the end. I can't remember if final attack orders made an impact on his scapegoat tokens. Possibly. So that's another interaction it can do, is it'll put all your opponent's tokens to attack position, and then you can just attack over them, which is just so nasty. Such a cool card that it does that as well.
What are your thoughts on cards?
But yeah,
like
that was.
So they've got these one-offs that are inherently not a minus, but you've got like final attack orders. There's things like Necro Valley, and cards of that nature, even Eclipse spells. Like, what are your thoughts on those sort of cards
that do something?
Yeah, do you think it's
so if they have to do like obviously all those cards do something, but the fact is, like, by themselves, like in a vacuum, those cards don't really do enough. So like an equip spell, you need to have a monster. Final attack orders, as I said before, if you don't have any monsters inside the field, like, what's it doing? It does, it's not really doing anything. The Necro Valley does do stuff by itself, you could say, but if you're not applying pressure behind that card, it's just like a skill drain. If you have no monsters attacking and pressuring your opponent, even if you have skill drain up, your opponent's just going to swing into you instead and take you down. So Floodgates are, I guess, Necro Valley, Skill Drain are kind of Floodgates. They're very good cards, but they rely on the rest of your deck. Equip spells, they rely on you having monsters. So they're not cards that you want to run too many of. So, like I mentioned before, like final attack orders, I decided that one was what I wanted to run. Because if I draw that one card, I just need a monster and it will function. And it does enough, even as a one-off, that it's still valuable. And yes, it'd be nice to see it early sometimes and have a second copy, but over a long period of time, it's just going to cause more problems because you'll be drawing these copies without a monster, and just be causing more issues. So those kind of cards, they're good, but you have to put some thought into them. You can't just slap in like 3 of them, call it a day. Or at least understand, like, okay, this card's going to cause some problems, but do the pros outweigh the cons? And if the pros outweigh the cons, definitely yes. Like Zappa OTK, that our good friend Byte has played, and Don't Got Be piloted to its first win, was that card runs equip spells, and it does so very purposefully. Like, it's like the pros in that deck do outweigh the cons of how much damage it can do with a Zapper.
Gotcha. So but very much risk versus reward, and you are taking into account. I know you are definitely, but you take into account, like, obviously variance over a long period of time. Like you said, you play the one, and the upsides of playing the one, outweigh the downsides of not. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, of like 0 or 2. Like even Trap Dustshoot, I believe that there are more pros to running 1 than running 0. So, like, some people might decide Trap Dustshoot, or they have a thought process of, like, I'm going to run 2 of them or none, because if I'm running 2, I'm more likely to draw in my opening hand, and if I'm not going to run 2, why am I running 1? I'm unlikely to draw it, it'll come up at awkward times. But I think there's so many pros to, like, to even just 1 copy over 0. So just to explain, like, if you have no copies, or like if you have 1 copy versus 0, your opponent still kind of has to respect it, but they can't really respect it enough to play around it constantly. because it's only one copy. So if they're playing around it constantly, they're changing their whole play style because of one card, which is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not playing around it and they're keeping 4 cards in hand, then that's also good for you, because when you draw that one copy, it'll be live.
Mm.
And there's also the possibility that you will still you can still open with your one copy of Dustshoot. You know, you get that opening play of seeing their handing all the information. If it is dead, you only have one copy. So that's another pro. Like going into the mid game, you draw your one copy, great, it's dead, but I have no more in my deck. Compared to running 2, where you might have another one. All that being said, like maybe 2 has more pros than 1,
Mm-hmm.
but 1, you know, has more pros than cons than 0.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Speaking of Floodgates and them not doing anything about another card, it actually makes me think of something that I really like about Kaiiku is a Floodgate, but it's a Floodgate on a with a body, with an 1800 attack body.
Mm.
You know, your opponent can't summon a Chaos Monster while Kaiku's face up on the field. And there's cases where I've seen Kaiiku used as a Floodgate. Like I've seen opponents turn Kaiiku to defense position because they don't want it to be killed by Mirror Force. Or even not attacking with it because they're presuming that there's a Sakuretsu armor that's going to kill it.
Mm.
So they keep it as a Floodgate. I've seen one of my teammates, Rio, he end phased Call the Haunted his Kaiiku just to stop his opponent summoning a Chaos Monster the next turn. That was his own end phase. He just decided that he wanted that card up, where normally you don't do those plays. So it's a Floodgate in a monster form. There's other cards like that, but you know, Wangu's one, and I have a love-hate relationship with Wangu.
Yeah,
Talk about that if you want me to.
Yeah, you have. I know you ran 3 of them in your side with your, your Obelisk 44 and your War League list when you played the Earth Aggro. Yeah, what were your thoughts on that card, King Tiger?
Yeah, in Earth Aggro, it looks so logical on paper. It'd be like, oh yeah, I'm running Earth Aggro, I'm gonna side 3 of them. And one of the things that I realized I really like about Earth Aggro is its rotor engine is so powerful. Like you still have access to like Swordsman level 2, Exiled Force, which is such strong outs to a set monster. And even if you're playing against Control, where Wangu shines, they still set monsters. And I was running 3 of them, and I kind of thought that this is not a card that I really want to always open with and then be my first play. Like against Control, if I open with a Wangu and just slam it down as my very first play, it hasn't really done much at that point. Like they might have a Briar and just attack over it because it's game 2, or they might just set a monster, and then if they set a monster, I can't out it with my Exiled Force or level 2. So that interaction came up a few times during testing, and I'm like, hang on, this card is like, why am I running 3 copies of a card that if I draw my opening hand is not actually the best card to play first against Control? It's better to bring it in later just to lock them out once my board's set up, once like things are happening. And then I cut it down to 2, because it's like, if I don't want to play it straight away, don't run 3, run 2. And in some versions, I've gone between like 2 and 1. 1 over 0, similar reasoning to Drop Dustshoot. 1 does a lot. Like even 1 copy coming in the mid game is great, or it goes to graveyard early, I can still call and prem it back at the right time. But yeah, it does cause issues with level 2. And something that I like to do on Earth Aggro now is I like to side in a second copy of level 2 against CT, or even against Control, and Wangu does cause problems there. The same thing against Panda Burn. Like, Wangu's good against Panda Burn, but I'd much rather have level 2 at times, just to stop those jars going off, to take advantage of them setting, attacking under level limit. And if I have a Wangu on board, I can't do that. It doesn't out the sets. So yeah, I started with 3 Wangu, and I've been slowly cutting down number of copies. I still believe Earth Aggro should always have at least 1 or 2, but I no longer believe that 3 is the right number. Unless the meta changes dramatically, but I don't see Steingate. It's such a hard deck to pilot that I don't see Steingate or Rescue Cat being widely played. There'll always be really good pilots playing those, but the masses won't. I don't see the masses playing those decks because you lose to yourself at times.
Yes,
Piloting them.
the bricky hands. That's what do you think for like aggro decks is a good out for? Because Turbo is becoming more popular with their control sides, like their scapegoats and their metas and their swaps and their things like that. And then obviously the CC matchup for the aggro list. Do you think like the Book of Moons and potentially the evacs and the already in the deck Ring of Destructions and Solemns and Battle Traps and things like that are enough to deal with it? Or do you think it needs some extra special attention? Like you did have 3 King Tigers in there to counter it at one stage until you decided, that there was a different way to go. Do you think do you think Asuras have their place? Do you think there needs to be extra special attention for those matchups? And if so, what would you say is the best way to go about it? Is a Skeleton Book of Moon in the side enough to cover it? Or
It's definitely a matchup that you don't want to go in without putting some thought into. So even some basic things like just picturing what your opponent's going to do and what you shouldn't do against that. So for example, your opponent on control, let's just say they have a scapegoat. Do you really want to attack Goblin into an open board? They flip a scapegoat and then suddenly they have a really juicy Thousand Eyes restrict target. Like they can restrict the Goblin and then you're in a whole world of hurt. Like what can you really do? They're going to be hitting you with your own 2300 restrict. So something that I do in that matchup is I side Goblin down, put in another level 2. It's one of the reasons I like level 2 is I can attack into a board, into a set, leave level 2 on it, and it's not a juicy restrict target for them. DD Assailant can be another problem card against creature swap. It's another juicy target where if they swap Assailant to themselves, you suddenly you have to deal with Assailant, which as I said before is really good in an aggro matchup because it trades into whatever attacks over it. The number one way that aggro +1s is in battle, and you can't +1 over an Assailant outside of a niche card like DD Survivor, which we've talked about at times. That card is a really good side for Warrior to think about if they're worried about Earth aggro, because it allows you to +1 over Assailant. But outside of that, you can't really +1 over Assailant. So yeah, you have to think about what some of the issues are going to be. So the metamorphosis, the swaps, I do think you want to bring in a Book of Moon and possibly even just one evac on top of that against that matchup, because the evac can at least stop swap where Book of Moon can't. There's the only in theory you could say 2 evacs could be even better than Book of Moon, but it opens up other problems where Book of Moon is just more flexible against back row, against Decree. You can bring Book of Moon in against a mirror match, for example, and it does a lot of work protecting your assailants from their battle traps, from their smashing ground, from their snatch steal, where you wouldn't want to bring in evac. So something that I like is 1 Book of Moon, 1 evac against that matchup. Final attack orders still helps a lot with the scapegoats. Still bringing in a Wangu, bringing in a second copy of level 2 for the reasons said above. It's one of the few monsters you can send into their field and not worry about it being swapped or meted against you. You mentioned Asura Priest, and yeah, I actually have nothing bad to say about that card. That's actually a good idea. Even just 1 copy of Asura Priest, it works very similar to level 2. You can send it against their field, and it's not going to be meted or swapped and used against you. I've played Earth aggro against a really nasty Monarch deck that another one of our teammates likes to play in real life.
Yeah.
And it had such a bad time versus all their brain controls and creature swaps and metas that they were running. in the deck. It was really, really rough. And yeah, things like Asura Priest, Will Evac, Tiger, like they're all very, very good. I would say Asura is actually even probably better than Tiger, despite not being the right attribute. But you know, that's the cool thing about Earth Aggro is they don't all have to be Earth monsters. It's a little bit more flexible than a Chaos Turbo in a way, because Chaos Turbo you need these perfect ratios of darks and lights, where Earth Aggro you just need a minimum number of Earths to support Gigantes, and only one Earth has to go to the grave to support that card. So you can run some non-Earth attributes, not too many, but you know, you can do a tech thing like an Asura Priest. That's actually a really good idea.
Cool. And
I might add Asura Priest to my side now, actually.
Yes, Asura is a great card. It's probably one of those things I play at the Melbourne IRL. But you mentioned Book of Moon, the versatility of it. Us Australians, we love our Book of Moon. We love our Book of Moon. I can remember there was some times in War League where the player didn't expect us to have 2 in the list, and then there was a second one that stopped a big play or something. Really good game.
I've run free.
Yeah.
I've run free. The way I describe Book of Moon, it's a budget solemn judgment. the things it can do.
Yes.
And you can also you can chain it to back row removal with the right board setup, of course. You know, if you have a face up to Kochi on board, you can set a Book of Moon, be like, okay, go. You don't have to worry about Heavy Storm, MST, or Breaker.
Yeah,
taking out your back row. It's such a cool card like that. Like I think there's what Chaos Turbo have been doing recently is they're playing things like Jar of Greed, just back row that they can set, draw more cards, potentially +1 off. Book of Moon is one of those cards that can, be chained to things, so it can +1 against back row removal, but you can also set it behind a Chaos Sorcerer and then win that head to head in the mirror.
Yeah,
because they'll summon their Chaos Sorcerer, you can book yours, or they try and snatch it. You can protect your monster.
Well,
I
think one of the strongest positions you can be in on the board is you have I don't know, a Chaos monster, potentially something you're setting into it, a Moth or a Dekoichi or something, and if you have a Book of Moon or Solemn behind it in a reasonably simplified game state, it almost feels like GG. Remember there was a while back where I was going back and forth with you and we were building out a list that had the Book of Moons and the Solemns and the things like that. And I played.
I was just thinking of that. Yeah,
played in the FLC about a year ago and bubbled, but still had a nice record in that tournament. But yeah, I think
I do like your approach, doing the Solemns and books together. There's things that the Book of Moon can do that it does better than the Solemn Judgment, stopping a Ring of Destruction, wiping out your life points.
Yeah.
Or even, as I said before, it being a budget Solemn Judgment, you can, having both of them, you're running 5 Solemn Judgments in a way that can interact with things. You don't have to Solemn the Snatch, you can Book a Moon against it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to Solemn the Breaker, you can Book a Moon it. It's very, very good, but something that you have to consider with that deck is it plays for the mid game.
Yeah.
And you don't have room for things like Jar of Greed. Sometimes you might, not even card destruction at times. So you're playing for this mid game, and that's fine, but it's being aware of what are the pros and cons with certain card choices. The pro is you have a very powerful mid game. The con is you can be a bit slower in the early game.
Mm-hmm.
But if you understand that, then you can have a lot of success with that strategy.
Yeah.
I know, imagine going into a strategy like that, not understanding what your advantage is, and being all these cards are dead in the early game. I'm opening with Book of Moon and Solemns. I can't do anything. I wish these were Jar of Greeds or Dustshoots.
That was the thing when I found I was playing at when you're in a turbo mirror. if they just have one of their stereotypical, quicker openings, they get an upstart off a jog, they resolve a shoot, resolve their first to Koichi. It was very much an uphill battle. But if you could get to the mid game, you could do work. They did have a nice aggro matchup, a control matchup, and things like that. But obviously the deck's built to beat Turbo because that's the most played list. Where are we at? Man,
it's definitely something I was just saying, like, there's something that I've been frustrated with recently is, like, I've been looking for how to get an edge in the Chaos Turbo mirror, and it's difficult to get that edge, but I think it's important to look for, like, things like, playing for a mid game may look a bit strange, especially with Dustshoots flying off early, but it's GOAT format. You can turtle up, and if that gives you an edge in the mirror, then that's one way to look for it.
Mm-hmm.
The Kaiiku was another way that I looked for it. You mentioned there's another. You mentioned that DMOC list had Kaiiku in it as well.
Yeah,
and we actually talked about Kaiiku a bit. But I actually made a Chaos Turbo Kaiiku list that even had Call the Hornet just to add more pressure with supporting that card.
Well, that was good. We both took that to war last season a couple of times. It might have even played 4 or 5 matches, and I'm pretty sure it was decently positive win rate. I don't recall losing with it in war when I was playing that list. Obviously, we picked our weeks that we played it, but it was a good way to do it. Having the having the couple of Kaikus. I won't give away exact ratios for this one because it might make an appearance this year, but having the Kaikus and the Call and even potentially Mystic Swordsmans or things like that. It was just you're getting some of those warrior benefits. Which one of the strongest things warriors do against Turbo is they get Mystic Swordsmans or Exiles onto the flips, and then these Kaikus coming down, banishing everything and killing them. With the calls to bring them back and stuff. It was I thought it was really well built.
In a floodgate.
Yeah, I thought you built that really well.
It's getting too much of it. Also, it was like a proof of concept of why why a warrior smoke can do so well as well, because you got the similar elements. Chaos and Kaiiku together does work.
Yeah.
I've even seen looking for looking for an edge or a way to +1 is just so important in GOAT format, because if your opponent knows that you might be bringing, like, let's say you bring 3 Kaikus and you're known for that, they might bring in a Zombraya against you in a Chaos Turbo mirror match. They might bring a Zombraya just to look for that easy +1. Like, you drop your Kaiiku and they look for the +1. So I would actually, if you do play Kaiiku in Chaos Turbo, it's important to understand what it's weak to. It's weak to Zombraya, it's weak to Tsuke, and plan for that. So, maybe you want to main deck a single Sakuretsu, or maybe you're like, okay, I don't care if it dies, I'll use Call the Hornet. I wouldn't say just slap Kaiiku in and just expect it to do work, because your opponent might just get some easy pluses over it.
True.
You just leave it there.
It's very true. Hey man, I wanted
probably
to
good in your
ask you-
Solemn Judgment list.
No, that's true. I think Kaiiku, Solemn, Wing Blast all perform incredibly well together. I thought the people, man, might like to hear about your Relinquished Exchange burn list that had the Smoke into Turbo side strat. You took that to a second place at a PWCQ, which are they're stacked tournaments, and you built this list that had never been seen before, that I could find anyway. When I did research, you were the first person that I could find to do it, especially those combinations together. How did you find that? And do you have any plans on revisiting that list one day?
That list is such a cool list. Had so much fun with that. It was very organic how that list came about too. Just to mention, it got second place against No Copies Control, which was the worst grand final that I could go into, to be honest. Can't remember if I was undefeated at that point. I think I was. Yeah, I was undefeated at that point and just couldn't get that win. And it's actually, I think that was like the third time I've gone into a finals undefeated and then choked. I'm glad I ended that curse. But there's that's like the third time I've got second place going into a final there.
That was a crazy
That
list.
yeah, and it's just like just talking about that control matchup. It was just, you flip a nightmare wheel. They have so many answers to out there, like a T-Drag, a Metamorphosis. To get that wheel off board, it makes it very difficult. It's all about like the worst matchup you could have. But that being said, the list was very organic. It did center around one interaction though, where it all started, which was exchange. Exchange and a ritual searcher was the interaction that it kind of built it from ground up. I just thought it was such a cool thing to do. Is you summon a Manju, search out a ritual card, exchange it to your opponent, and they can't do anything with it. Like it's completely dead to your opponent. Unlike all these other things that you could be exchanging, like you could exchange a Thunder Dragon, but maybe they'll just search out their own, or you can exchange a Serpent, and it's not terrible, but you don't actually plus off it because they're just going to keep it in hand now. But yeah, just summoning that Ritual Searcher, and then doing the exchange, you don't actually neg off that as much. Very, very powerful, very, very, very fun. I did start with that initially without any of the Ritual Stall stuff. So that smoke side was actually the main deck for a while, and I had a lot of fun with it. I tried it with Zork. That was a lot of fun. It did have a weakness though to aggro matchups. So, the Zork or the pure ritual build against aggro had a lot of trouble. There wasn't enough defense, or like all your recruiters kind of just died. Kaiiku really impacted you. It was difficult to get even ritual summon against Trap Dustshoot or Solemns, and like Book of Moon. It was a tough matchup, and that's kind of like where I had the idea of maybe I want to play some stall cards. I tried Messenger of Peace, and then I remember about their stall burn with Exchange, and they talked about how Exchange made a lot of sense because you would give your opponent cards that were useless to them, like your level limits and gravity binds, and even I think they had skill drain in it, and you could take their best cards, or you take the Photocrete Heavy Storm, stop them from using it entirely. And so I decided, like, okay, maybe they'll complement each other. You've got my Ritual Exchange, and you have all of these stall burn cards, which improves the warrior, like the aggro matchup dramatically. But you still have all the advantages of both, and I tested it, and it just worked well together. Like the weaknesses of both decks were kind of mitigated by combining them. Like Exchange with Ritual is much stronger than just by itself, and there'll be times when you could actually put pressure in with your Ritual monsters, do some extra damage, which would speed up the burning them down to 0. And then of course you still have this smoke side, where your opponent might be bringing in all this back row removal because you're a stall burn deck, and you can just swap it out for strong anti-monster cards, especially against Chaos Turbo, and just beat them to death with like a normal Chaos Ritual deck.
Yeah,
which is really strong. And if you still verse an aggro deck, well, just stay on your stall burn stuff. I actually have a test game, I think it was on the ladder versus, it might have been Lucas, on their warrior list. And going into game 2, I stayed on stall burn, and they brought in Zing, Mobius, like all this anti back row hate stuff, and resolved it against me. But I still ended up getting the win, getting the big W against them. And it just showed, like, there's a lot of resilience in the deck. It's very, very, very cool list.
It's a very cool concept, like stall burn in terms of it's back row heavy, so you're going to be setting your hand. So you've got the recruiters to find the ritual pieces. You've got the exchanges to then you've got 1 or 2 cards in hand being dead ritual pieces to then be able to exchange across and take your opponent's BLS or take your opponent's good cards, Trinity pieces.
Pot agreed is what I've actually hit. I've actually hit it. I've actually taken it.
Oh, that'd be the best. And then it's just like you're just leaving them in a bad spot, and you're taking their best card for the situation. And even still with that, there's that added thing I remember of you could make Relinquished, and you can crash into things if you need to as well. Being a level 1, being able to attack under the binds and the limits that you have in the list, and burn them out that way as well. Yeah. There's lots of cool ways that deck just played together. But yeah, I thought the people would love.
And Relinquish has a burn effect as well.
Yeah.
That's not well known and a bit confusing, the way it works in Goat. But yeah, Relinquish has a burn effect. If it actually was something I used once. Opponent had an attack position spy and a set monster, and I relinquished the set monster. My relinquish is 0/0, and I attacked into their spy, and as long as your equipped monster is destroyed by battle, you can then inflict that battle damage back to your opponent as well. So we both take 1200, and that was I think that was under a gravity bind. So just another way to do extra damage, which is really cool.
Yeah, which absolutely is beneficial with with the nightmare wheels and the things like that, the cannons and all that sort of stuff. It was a good list. Hey man, so I wanted to ask you something. This is for the War League captains and stuff out there. There's some newer teams in the league this year and stuff like that. You've been our War League captain at Masters of Oz for 3-4, maybe even coming into our 5th season now. I can't remember, but you've been for a while.
Going into the 4th season, yeah.
Yeah, we were all new players. I'd basically played in 1 PWCQ before joining War League, and ladder. And then, my first War League season, I went 2 wins, 9 losses or something crazy like that. How did you take a team full of players like that to, I think it was our 2nd or 3rd season in, we're literally 1 game away from a 3rd place finish in the entire league. That was a really tight year. And we just missed playoffs by 1 freaking game. And then we made playoffs next year. How did you, as a captain, take a bunch of players who were not necessarily new, but not really competitive into, being up there with, I believe, the best in the league?
So just where the team actually started, made stressful, shout out to them again, was the one that actually was they joined War League with me back in season 2 of War League, and they were in a different team, the Underdogs, and they were asking me, when are you going to start an Australian team? When are you going to start an Australian team? And they kind of put that idea in my head, hey, this War League's actually a good way for Australians to play, because it's not a 1 a.m. start. We can arrange an early morning or late evening with our opponents. Much to their dismay, they probably hate scheduling with us, but it's doable.
Absolutely.
And so he put the thought process in maybe actually giving it a go, trying to recruit a team that we could all play in. And one of the things I was thinking was, this could take a lot of time. It's be a lot of hard work. Scheduling could be a nightmare for both sides, of course. And in the end, I just kind of thought I can put some time aside. And just give it a go, have a shot, and I'm really glad I did. I reached out to a lot of people, including yourself, through Discord. People that played Goat format online was the first place I looked. So I was able to, you're, I think, really great player, and I know your first season may not have been rough, but none of your losses were terrible. War League is super tough environment, and one of the advantages, you can look at replays, you can look at history, and continue working towards improving. It's a great environment for actually self-improvement as well, compared to something like Dueling Book Ladder can actually be very, very hit and miss with your opponents. they either care too much about the game, like way too much, or they don't care enough, and you don't have a good time. But War League's always been competitive and still, respectful of each other, and even supportive of each other as well, which is really good in a competitive environment. But yeah, with the team's evolved a bit. We've picked up some players, we've lost some players over the seasons. I actually had a look. I think we formed in season 3 of War League, and now we're playing season 7. Is that so? It's 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is our 5th season.
Yeah, cool.
Of playing War Leagues. That's actually one more than I originally thought. So it was I think it was season 3, season 4. We were still like finding our footing, seeing how we were going. Season 5, I tried something new with the roster, where it was kind of like it was a performance like based roster, where if you won, you kept playing. If you lost, sat for a week. And as you said, we were only one game in the final week away from making playoffs that season. So it was close, but not quite there. And then something I noticed in that season was that, especially in the final weeks, is the way War League is they can see what your history is, or what you're playing, what your percentage is. And that can be used against you. So we had a lot of players that season that liked Warrior, and our opponents were coming at us in the final weeks with main decks and Briars, even main deck Sakus, which just negate your game 1 advantage, or at least equalize it. And it's not what you want playing an aggro list. You want that game 1 advantage so that you can, go play your for the probability over the match of actually winning. So that's something that I had to start actually thinking of as captain, is what are we showing, what can our players actually play. And that was probably something that stopped us from making playoffs, was we weren't flexible enough. Not all the players could swap between Warrior and Chaos Turbo, even like combo and aggro. But going into last season, was something that was at the forefront of my mind and was a bit of a focus. And throughout that season, when I was putting together rosters, it was thinking, okay, what players can play what are they willing to play, and what is our opponents going to see at the end of this. Like, it wasn't just playing that week against that week's opponent, it was also what's next week's opponent going to see. Are they going to see us play that week with 5 aggro lists and then come at us with main decks and Briars? What are they going to see? And that planning ahead multiple weeks with over the season actually did pay off. I remember even early on, the same teams that were main decking Briar and Saku against us in season 5. I think in the opening weeks they tried to do the same thing. We played like 5 Chaos Turbo that week, and then the next week we started bringing in some aggro again. So to get the ratios back. Something that I had a goal over that season was to kind of be 2 Chaos Turbo, 2 aggro, and then maybe 1 combo deck each week, and have that to be like the ratios that we show. And the reason for that is just to make it as difficult as possible for our opponents to prep for us. They can't just all prep for Chaos Turbo, they can't all prep for aggro, and we got this rogue combo deck in the mix as well that can just steal games that they probably can't prep for at all.
That's true.
I think that's a very good strategy.
And I agree with I think it was last season. Yeah, last season when we did like our best. That was definitely a different approach you took with how you did the rosters for each week and the teams and the lineups and even the decks that were taken and stuff like that. I think it was really, really good. In terms of, there were obviously weeks there where you're like, captain rule this week is like, this is our list, or these are our two lists. This is what we're showing, and we would just come out and win those weeks, and yeah, it was really good. I think, So for the War League captains, the newer ones that might have a new team and stuff like that, you think, as well as obviously preparing and thinking for the week ahead, also be thinking about the bigger picture and the matchups down the road as well.
Yeah, it's like, especially now that there's a bot that you can use to like have a really in-depth analysis of what team you're playing and what's coming up. Like, yeah, it can work against you, but you can also take advantage of it as well, as long as you use it and know it's there.
But yeah, man, I guess that sort of leads into how are you feeling about the team as a whole for this upcoming season? What do you foresee us doing? Do you see us getting wild cards, playoffs? I know it's only early and we're round one's just ticked over, but yeah, how do you see the year playing out for us?
Yeah, I see playoffs again, definitely. I don't see any issues getting there. I do believe we're stronger than what we were last season even.
Yeah.
Especially with how the players want to actually approach their games as well. It's great to bring experimental decks to competitive play, but in War League it is a team. It's a team environment, and something that that we're all kind of doing is we're putting the team first with what we play and how we play it, and it makes a dramatic impact on how well we do. So yeah, I don't see any issue getting the playoffs, and that getting the playoffs itself was a goal for the team, and now that's achieved. It's going to be getting to finals and winning the whole thing.
Hell yeah, that's what I want to. Bring it on. What a year it's going to be. What are your thoughts on the future of GOAT format at the moment, man? What are your thoughts on the future of GOAT? Do you think it needs a shake-up, or do you think it's chucking in the right direction? How do you think GOAT format is, and the health of it overall?
I would say the online scene is always healthy. War League is on its 7th season, which has been great for competitive play. Academy League is also fantastic. Something that I haven't done too much of that I want to is this format library ladder that you've been absolutely crushing it on. That seems like a lot of fun. The online tournaments, they're still at 1 a.m, but they're still running. So yeah, online scene is looking really good.
Mm-hmm.
The GOAT format in real life, I don't like. I know there's these grand prixes that are playing, and I want to see more of them. They're I think most recent one in Europe had over 100 players. That looked fantastic. It would be nice to see more of these events. I know there's probably in real life there's a lot of competitiveness with Edison as another alt format. Like shops and storefronts, they can only have so much space for these different games, so much support. Edison's going to be more a bit of a competitor there. There's also a recent thing where Konami have just completely changed their how they want to do Time Wizard formats, where they're now going to be using modern erratas of cards.
Yeah.
Which is just I personally think that's probably why they shouldn't have errated these cards in the first place. Taking an old card and then changing its text to do something completely different to what it initially did, is just it causes these problems where people have the same card with different text, and it makes running legacy formats so much harder in real life. And the fact that they're now ruled that it has to use the modern text, it kind of ruins these old formats as well. They're not going to be what they should have been. So that's something that's happening. We'll have to see how that unfolds, whether they change their mind or not. I know why they did the errataing was because of the ban list. They didn't want the ban list to keep growing, but maybe that's something they need to look at as well. I know other card games that run for longevity don't use a ban list. They use rotating sets. So things like Hearthstone and Magic Gathering, they will rotate sets out after like 3-4 years, and that allows them to print new cards that don't have to compete with the old cards, so they don't have to have this power creep constantly. And it means your old cards can always be played in a legacy format. There's some advantages in Magic where they're not going to be reprinted. You know, Magic the Gathering cards, you can actually invest in old cards and not worry about a reprint, not worry about the value going down. And you can always play those cards in a legacy or a commander format. And then you can play modern Magic as well and know that, okay, I'm going to buy these cards and I can play them for the next 3 years. So at least you know what what you're getting into. Where, some people are like, oh, the advantage of Yu-Gi-Oh is you can buy a deck and it's not going to be rotated out. You can always play Blackwings. And the reality is, no, it's not the case. Your Blackwing deck is just going to be outsped by whatever the new stuff is, and it's some of the cards are going to be on the ban list anyway. You're not going to be able to play them. You're not going to be able to play your deck. So the ban list will come up and stop you from playing your favorite deck, and you don't even get warning that what's going to be on it. At least with a rotating set, you can be like, okay, I can play Blackwings for the next 2-3 years, and then it's going to rotate out. But with a ban list system, you might play it for the next 2-3 months or 2 to 3 weeks, and then the ban list comes in and hits all your favorite cards. It's something that actually happened to one of my friends back when I was playing Modern Yu-Gi-Oh, and then I actually wound back after this. He invested in a pendulum deck at the start of 2016 to take it to YCS Sydney. He actually spent like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, like $500 plus, on this deck to play in the most competitive tournament in Australia, which unfortunately is in Sydney, not Melbourne. But he played that deck. He had a lot of fun. He did well. And then it was the week after that tournament, Konami released a mid-season ban list or emergency ban list and limited a lot of his cards, and the value of the card dropped. Like, the money he invested was just gone. He wasn't even able to play his deck at full power for more than 2 weeks after buying it. And this was a brand new set that was printed too, which is why it cost him so much. This was a brand new set, and then 3 weeks after the set gets printed, cards get hit in it on a ban list. And it's like, well, if we had a rotating set system, that brand new set, all the cards in it would have been played for the next 2 to 3 years before rotating out.
Yep.
I think that could be good for, we're here to talk about GOAT format, but we're talking a bit about modern as well. But I think that could be really good for modern Yu-Gi-Oh, is to have a look at where they see themselves in 5-10 years time and how they're going to get there. And I believe a rotating sets could be the way to go. Otherwise, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how they'll get there. Doing what they're doing, I don't think it's working.
Yeah, that doesn't sound promising. There's lots about modern, basically in Yu-Gi-Oh, the only sort of format I've even really sort of played and looked into has been GOAT. It's just the one I found and the one that I've just enjoyed so far. I wouldn't even know where to start with modern, but it just seems, I've watched a few videos on YouTube of people playing it or whatever, and it just seems like a completely different game. It's but that's the thing, if it's making them the money and they've got the biggest player base, modern and all that sort of stuff, they're probably they'll just keep doing what they're doing. And I think that's what we've sort of seen with the Konami thing as well, where they've gone, well, we get lots of people showing up to these modern events. They're spending all the big dollars and all the money consistently, always buying the new decks to stay competitive. Hey, we might as well get them to, double dip and get into the legacy formats as well. We can sell them even more cards, and we just adjust the game to suit them better with the modern rules. It just seems like they're trying to, I guess, filter out these legacies. So we're actually chatting about that on the AJT episode last week, where we were like, well, I guess it's a really good time for online, especially online GOATs, to really flourish now in terms of, there's GOAT format, there's War League, there's the Academy League, there's format library, all those sort of things. It's a really good time for them to capitalize on, getting these IRL players that typically wouldn't play online, potentially moving online to be able to play these old formats how they were intended to be played. So, it'll be interesting to see what comes over the coming months.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame they've gone in that direction. I always thought it'd be a good thing if they wanted to capitalize on the old formats, was to print a set that had only the most popular cards from the old formats. Like, we all know how long we've been chasing Trap Dustshoot before it finally got a reprinting.
Yep.
And it got a reprinting in like some weird sparkly secret rare. I'm not sure how I feel about these new rarities. Sometimes I like the more simple looks, like the original secret rares, the original ultimate rares. They look fantastic. And then you get these like super shiny cards that you can't even see the card. It's just blinding you. The piece of foil, essentially.
Yeah.
Give me some good cardboard.
Oh, that's it. Some good old cardboard with that little first edition down that bottom left corner. Oh, makes me.
Oh yeah, that's where it's at.
Man, I figured I'll give you one last question for the watchers. Oh, actually, and we've got to just talk about potential GGP in Melbourne, the possibilities of that based off, Xavier's asked about that, and we've obviously like to discuss that. But first of all, a player, they're already decent enough player. They want to cook something up. They want to potentially change the format. They want to build a new list, and they want to win with it. What's like 2 or 3 tips for them?
So they want to build something new, shake things up. I would say it's being a legacy format, it's important to look at what's been done and what's had success, and then try and figure out why certain strategies were successful. It's something that's a big advantage. Like, you actually do have an advantage coming in with an unknown strategy, is so many players are prepared for mirror matches, for aggro matches, for existing stuff. They're not prepared for playing against something like Stolburn or Drainburn or a Stein reasoning gate list. Those lists, those kind of strategies, these alt strategies, Rescue Cat, their advantage is playing opponents that aren't familiar with them, that aren't prepared, that might even be thrown off and become frustrated and play worse because they don't know what's happening.
Yes.
Even what we've been doing with Smoke was taking advantage of that trend, just throwing opponents off, seeing how people were siding, and then doing the opposite of what they wanted us to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the advantage of bringing in a new strategy. Even players that are playing Chaos Turbo and Warrior all the time, they say that they do not play the same list. They might play the same 36 cards, and they will make changes just so your opponent has to play around everything. So if they had a Torrential Tribute out of the main one week and then that list gets published, they'll bring it back in. It sounds simple, like that's a very simple example, but that is why rogue strategies have so much success.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, and why sometimes it can be difficult to have multiple success with a rogue strategy over multiple weeks. So for example, the Ritual Burn took advantage of a few trends, also a few really nice interactions, but when I was playing it, a lot of opponents were just not prepared for it at all, and were just completely thrown off by what it was doing, and it was able to win games capitalizing off that. So if you want to look at building a completely rogue strategy, I would say it's very difficult to do it in a vacuum. It's important to look at like what's been done before. Take inspiration. There is no issue with taking inspiration from what's been done before, and even thinking, hey, this is what people are playing now, and this strategy from like 2 years ago, or this list from 2 years ago, looks like it could do really well again. It's up to the pilot as well. Some decks are better with different pilots. So an example is Matt Uber's Steingate. I believe that deck is such a great list, and one of the like it's such a great deck, and one of the things is the way he pilots it is so unique that I had to watch his replays and go, okay, this is how he's thinking, this is what he's doing, to have even the similar success with that list, where like my natural way to pilot that list is just completely different to what he does, and he has more success with it. So it's not a list that everyone could just pick up and have success with. You have to, it's up to the pilot as well, like how you play, like what's your strategy going into it. It's just some things to say about it, like, don't be afraid to do something that's been done before, but just do it better, or do it well, or do it at a time where it's at its strongest. That's completely fine. Like, because in a legacy format there are only so many cards in the card pool. There's enough there that you can always have something different each week, and still surprise people as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think you touched on that well. Like the rogue lists, the unknown of it is like sometimes just a big strength in itself. Like even just personally, I will have a much easier time. Like I would rather verse a very, very strong opponent on like standard turbo or standard warrior than a not so good player playing some concoction of cards. You don't really understand what's happening, and they're just dropping all these random things that can sometimes just steal a game. I would much rather be playing a strong opponent on a strong deck than someone playing like I've seen that Stein list that done well in a couple of tournaments not that long ago, and it was like, what was it? They were playing like these these dinosaurs that could be special summoned, and then Zaborgs and Cold Waves and Steins and Last Wills and that sort of thing. Burn card.
The Horus.
Yeah.
The Horus, Cold Wave Horus.
Like, give me
imagine playing against that.
Give me one of the top players any day over that list. Like, that seems like an absolute nightmare to verse. I just, that's the strength of those rogue lists like that. They can just come in and just take wins because players aren't prepared for them, as you were saying. So, yeah.
I mean, just like what you were saying about these random rogue decks that just traumatize you. Like there's JCVD has been having a lot of success with that with that kind of strategy recently. I've seen him again, I guess, doing a Demok Chaos Turbo, which is great, but he does it with a Cyber Jar, like a 1 Metamorphosis. I think sometimes you can just throw a Jinzo in there. And that's double scary because he's a good player.
Yeah.
with this jank strategy. I mean, no, his deck's good. His deck's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has all these random cards, and he's a good player. Like, oh man,
that's right. It's like a real high rolly, but also like it's like a turbo shell. I'm pretty sure he was in the Obelisk I was just in. I think I had him in round 1. And he was on that list where it's like turbo, but it has like Demok, Prem, Trunade, Cyberjar, and like a one-off Metamorphosis. So like I remember, I played him, and I won't go into too many details about the match because it will give away the list I'm on, which I'm obviously in the tournament right now. But yeah, like, you see the one-off Metamorphosis, and you just assume he's on his sort of control list. And you side for it, and he's basically just on turbo with the once-off meta and Demok and some crazy stuff like that. So, and he's been having success with it. Like they had a very good finish even in the 3v3 that we were in, with a list similar to that. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's just one of those examples where, like, you have this player, he's well known for doing certain things, and he's changing up his list, changing up his strategy, so that way people can't just look at his old lists and plan accordingly. Like, and that's something important coming in with a rogue strategy. Just being unknown, like having people thrown off of what you're trying to do, is such an advantage in itself, and so important in these old formats.
And that was
as long as you know your pros and cons of what you're doing.
Yeah. It was similar. Don't just go chucking revival jams and Zaborgs in your side list unless you've got a plan for it.
Yeah, like, and don't just throw a Demok in and be like, oh yeah, this card's gonna win me so many games. Like, at least, like, it's gonna lose you some games too.
Yep.
But it just has to win you more than you lose, and that's and it's doing its job.
Exactly. No, man. It's look, it's been very good having you on. I think we'll wrap up the show. We'll keep chatting after the show. We've hit the hour and a half mark, so I'll keep it fun length for the
Yeah,
fun length
with
for the
the
viewers. Although I would love to hang out here and keep talking, we'll do it there. But anyway,
oh, you
Jase,
just have to have me back.
yeah, it was really good to have you on, mate. And thanks for being here. Do you have anything final to say to the watchers?
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. It was good. Final thing to say is, you gotta just have fun playing this game as well. I've had some of my most success having fun, like going into a tournament and not being stressed playing, but actually just going in, having fun, having a blast, playing well, of course, but enjoying myself while doing it. And yeah, at the end of the night, I've ended up being undefeated. So it was a great night.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So
no, legend, man. That's actually a really good takeaway. I didn't do that myself because I get very highly strung sometimes in competitive matches. But yes, just have fun, get the tunes going, and enjoy. No, awesome, Jase. Thanks very much. Thanks for being here, man. It's been great.